Jay Bothroyd.
Great to be here. I kept epilepsy a secret my whole entire career. There was literally games that I can, like if I watched it now, I wouldn't remember me playing in it.
That's astonishing.
I got a message saying, you're in the England squad, meet up at the Grove Hotel tomorrow, blah, 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 congratulations. And I just kind of, I remember I stood up and I like, yes, and cheered to myself, and everyone kind of looked at me like, what's he doing? That this fight ain't even started yet. And you know what, as well, I remember like there was a chance that I could have got a goal, but it didn't happen that way. I reckon I would have played about 100 games for Arsene. Because I don't think, Wenger loved me as a player. Gary Lineker came up to me and was like, the boss wants to see you. And I was like, the boss wants to see me, okay. Knocked on the door, Capello's room, went in, and he was like, can I help you? Like that. And I was like, you want to see me? Like that. And he was like, no. It was very good training today, like that. I was like, okay. So I went to Gary and I was like, guys, what's going on, mate? You winded me up. And he was like, no, Arsene wants to see you. The boss.
Oh, the boss.
Yeah, the boss.
The Joy of Football podcast. With me, Neil Barnett.
And with me, Martin Tyler.
Looks for Arsène! Rooney! Aguerooo!
The Joy of Football.
Hello, the Joy of Football podcast with Martin Tyler, the greatest commentator in the world, and me, Neil Barnett, brought to you today in the presence of Cover Sports, the health centre supplier. We have a guest. We have a guest who I've known since I think you were still 17. You might have turned 18 around the first time that we met. Jay Bothroyd, lovely to
It's
see
great
you.
to be here.
Thank you for coming all this way to this
I'm amongst
fantastic
legends.
studio.
England international.
Yes.
But can we start at the beginning?
I want to start at the beginning because I knew you very young.
Yeah.
This might have happened before, might have been happening when we met and everything, but the first question we tend to ask our guests, because it's called The Joy of Football, when did you know that football was in your soul and that it was a pathway to a profession as well, but just the love of it?
The love of it started in primary school. And I remember I used to go to a school called St. John's that was in Archway. And I grew up, my mum was a single mum. And then my stepdad came into my life when I was early years, so like maybe about 7 or 8. And I remember he loved football, but his first love was boxing. So I used to do both because I used to get in trouble, as you do in the area. And so he started taking me to the boxing gym, but I hated the training because it was a lot of it's by yourself as a boxer. So I wanted to play like a team sport. And I said to him, I'm really good at football. And he was like, yeah, nah, blah, blah, blah. And I kept badgering him. And then one weekend, he took me to Market Road for a trial with Westwood Boys. And in that trial, I scored 4 and I got into the team. And I said to him, I told you, I'm going to be a footballer when I'm older. And that's when like the fire in my belly was just there. And then as I got older, that fire just started to grow. And then people started to talk because we didn't have social media. So if you heard of a good player, it's like word of mouth, or you played against a school or a district or a county. But my first like real love for football came at Market Road when I was trialling for Westwood Boys.
But you knew then that was going to be a career, or if you could, it would be a career. It was that passionate. It wasn't just enjoying having a kickabout with your mates.
No, not. I used to get in trouble at school because of it, because the teachers would say, but what if you're not a footballer? I was like, I'm going to be a footballer. But what if you're not? I'm going to be. But what if you're not though? I'm going to be a footballer. And we used to get into arguments because I was just like hell bent on just saying, I want to be there was no other choice. Like for me, like my mum and dad done everything they could to give me what I wanted to and give me the platform. But we didn't come from, middle class backgrounds. It was, I had to wear like one pair of trainers and one pair of football boots all season. But yeah, my whole thing was I wanted to just really play in the Premier League. And, people like Ian Wright, when I was coming up, he was Andy Cole again. Like, it's funny now because when I'm around him, especially Andy Cole, and I made my debut against Andy Cole when he was at Man United, obviously. But I say to him, like, coming up, like, you were like a hero of mine. Like, and now, I mean, he's 50. Obviously, I'm 43, but to have that conversation with him and now to be friends with him, it's like, it's just such a long way away to where it was now. But yeah, I did know in my mind, there was something that was always in my mind, like I hated losing. Like if I lost a match in the playground at school, that would bother me. That would ruin my day. I'd go home and my mum would be like, what's wrong? Oh, like, we lost it. But it's just a kick around. I said, it's not though. You know, like when you play Wembley with your mates or squash against the wall, like I just always wanted to win. And then when I wasn't playing football, I was in the garden, which was really small. My dad used to bribe me and say to me, if you can do 10 kick-ups, I'll give you £1. If you do 20 kick-ups, I'll give you £2.
You should have been a football scout.
Exactly. So like he used to bribe me with those things. So I got really good at that really soon. Like now I'm coaching as well, my son's little under-9s team, which is called Top Ballers. And I say to them, like, when I was your age at 9 years old, I was doing like 50 kick-ups, 50, 100 kick-ups because I was just practicing all the time. So from a young age, I did know that I wanted more and I wanted to be the best I could be.
I want to take you to a specific point in time. If you're as old as he is, and even as old as I am, then I would argue, I've argued this before, that after Alf Ramsey introduced the wingless wonders that won the World Cup, there wasn't anyone that really changed football on the pitch in England. It perfected it and improved it, but there wasn't really anyone who changed it until Arsene Wenger joined Arsenal and brought in obviously the different darts and everything else, but the playing of much more football. So in 2000, you led the Arsenal line that got to the final of the FA Youth Cup. In the time that you
won the FA Youth Cup.
won the
FA
final
Cup,
of the FA Youth Cup.
Yeah.
In the time that you were rising through the ranks of Arsenal's academy, did your whole outlook of football have to change with Arsene Wenger becoming the manager of the club?
Yeah, for sure. Especially when we went into the new training ground. Because I don't know if you know, so like Watford's training ground now, that was Arsenal's.
It's next door.
It's next door. Like we used to, before the pitches were ready in the new training ground, we used to like get changed in the new training ground, climb over the fence and go and train at Watford, which is London Colney. So we used to go and get trained there. But when Wenger came in, everything changed. And I mean, you'll know this. We had a coach called Don Givens, right? And he was a striker and a very good one, successful. But again, he was trying to make me into this target man. And for me, it was more like, this doesn't really suit my game. But at the time, you just have to get on with it because you're like, I want to play, you know, but it never really suited me. So like, and again, this is where I grew up. It was almost like I wanted to impress my friends in the cages, in the park, more than I wanted to impress Don Givens because I enjoyed that more. Getting on the ball, step overs, beating players, having shots, doing everything. Whereas when I played for Arsenal as a kid, before Arsene Wenger, it was like, get a hold of the ball, get it wide, get in the box. And I was like, it didn't excite me no more. So when Wenger came in, it was like a whole new lease on life for me. Everything was 1-2 touch. Games were below head height. You could not pass the ball below waist height.
That's training games.
Training games, everything like touches, warm-ups with a ball. You know, it was no longer just like running around the pitch and stretching in corners and then sprints, and everything was with a ball. You know, but the culture of the club changed dramatically as well. So when we went into the new training facility, we went into the canteen. I'll never forget it because it was just like really shocking to me. I mean, my mum didn't like to cook anyway, so my diet at home was terrible, but when I liked it still because it was like jacket potato, cheese and beans. That was like a free mat. It was amazing, right? And then we went there, and I remember we went into the canteen for the first day, and we went up to collect the food. And it was like plain spaghetti and new potatoes, just plain new potatoes, plain like just Greek yogurt, and we was kind of like looking around like, where's the sauce? Where's the tomato ketchup? You know, whatever it may be. It's like, no, there's no sauce. There's no sugar. Everything is just clean eating. I was like, what? And at the time, remember, I was like 16. So like, I'm kind of I can't eat this. So that we used to get in the car and go to the McDonald's on the London Colney roundabout just to go and eat lunch every day, because it was like, I can't eat this. And that was a culture shock, the first real culture shock that Arsene Wenger gave me. But for me personally, I love Arsene because he's the one that brought real joy to me in the football on the pitch. Because as much as I was good at doing that, because I always had a good touch, and I was fast and I could get in the box and head just because of my stature, I wasn't enjoying football on a day-to-day basis, because you were just saying to me, go and be a target man. You know, am I happy to have like 10 touches in a game, 15 touches in a game? No. I need to be touching the ball 30, 40 times.
You didn't target 30 goals a season or anything like that with the striker's mentality.
No. And this is the thing, like when people look at me and say, okay, he's a striker. I didn't even used to look at myself as a striker. That's another thing. When Dennis Bergkamp came, it was a dream. Because now I'm looking at him and I'm saying, that's how I want to play football. I want to drift into wide areas. I want to drop deep. Getting a goal is as good as assist, and it always has been for me. Like, I was one of those players, even from a young age. If you said to me, okay, you can score 30 goals in a season, or you can get 15 goals and 15 assists, I'll take the 15 goals and 15 assists, because in my mind, that's more of a team player. You know, just someone that scores 30 goals. As much as I admire it and the hardest thing to do is score goals, I'm a football purist. And I want to be a team player. Yes, I am selfish still, but I still want to be a part of a team where I can affect the games in different ways. I don't have to score, which if you're just a player that has to score, when you don't score, you don't have a good game. But if you're a player that wants to get involved and create and get assists and affect the game in different ways, you can be successful in different ways as well. So that's why he brought joy to my game when I was there as a kid.
How much did you see of him, Jay? Because I know that he's very focused on the first team.
Yeah, especially in the beginning, because he was creating a philosophy. So he wanted to get the first team playing well to begin with, and then obviously everything filtered down to the point where, you know, we was even playing the same formation as the Arsenal team. Like, you know, when Ray Paolo was playing right wing, but he was tucked in a free, and then you had, like, you know, the winger out on there who's at Overmars, or then Perez came in and whatever. That's pretty how much we played. I remember because we had Jermaine Pennant wide on the right. Jerome Thomas was a winger who played on the left, but then he got injured early on. Stephen Sidwell came in there and played like that kind of Ray Parlour role, even though, you know, on the team sheet, he was playing left wing. He was tucked in like in a three with Jermaine Pennant out there and then the two up front. So we played similarly, but the times that I did come across Wenger, especially early on when I was playing up, he would always come and say to me, "You're doing really well." He's put his arm around me, encourage me, get on the ball. You know, I don't mind you getting involved in all the play, coming deep, but make sure you get yourself back into the box as well. Like those kind of things that were nice to hear, because he was basically saying to me, go and play. Go and enjoy yourself. Go and be yourself. Make things happen. And that's the way I always looked at football. I looked at football like I just want to enjoy it. And the players that I admire in today's game as well, the ones that go and do that, they go and enjoy it. They go and get involved in the game. Go and affect the game. Don't just wait for the game to come to them all the time. Because more often than not, you know, I mean, if you're like Man City, great. But if you're a lower team, more often than not, the game is not going to come to you. You have to go and try and affect it yourself. And, you know, I think that's what football is all about, and that's what it should be about.
Let's talk about the Youth Cup final, because that period in your life was quite important, as it turned out. The Youth Cup final, then the Premier...
the Premier League, under-19 Premier League.
Again, so Coventry, then West Ham. The West Ham game came after?
Yeah, it came after.
A few days after? Or?
No, I think it was like about a week after, something like that, or a few weeks after.
But
it was at the end of the season.
Birthday, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about the Youth Cup final. You and Steve said, well, I was commentating, you and Steve scored the goals in the second leg.
Quite a few people who went on to have good careers. Graham Stack, the goalkeeper, Ryan Ricketts,
Rowan did,
and Maurice Volz played the second leg.
Our team was like really good. Remember Nicola Galli? He passed away. God bless him. Yeah. He was about to have a really good career. He was I think he was on loan at Bologna when he passed away. And then there was Jeremy Lydia that was in the side, Joe Kafur, Jermaine Pennant, Jerome Thomas, David Noble, John Halls. You know, we had a really good group of players, and that was one of the things as well that, you know, everyone talks about the class of 92 and 93 at Man United, which was unbelievable because they had great careers, all played at the highest level. But from our group, we had like about 20 players that made a career out of football. And that was, you know, Don Givens, Don Howe, Neil Banfield, especially Neil Banfield, I think, and Don Givens. Credit to them. But that youth team, we all kind of had the same mindset. We was all competing with each other. We all wanted to be the best player. We all wanted to win. We hated losing. We all had that. And, you know, during that season, I remember like we'd turn up and the only real competition for us was West Ham. And they had like Michael Carrick, Joe Cole, Adam Newton, Izzy Rick Penn, people like that, Bertie Brayley. So like they was a really good side as well. During the season, we'd look at them and say they were definitely our rivals. Tottenham, Chelsea, it was just like a given. We would just turn up and we knew we was going to win. That's how good we were. We turned up with an arrogance. It was like, we're here. You know, even the warm-ups, I remember Neil Banfield would be moaning at us to like run across the pitches and we just want to smash balls and take free kicks, and as you do. But when the FA Youth Cup came around, it's the biggest match in youth football. And you want to perform in it in every round, because that's pretty much the only competition that's going to be in a newspaper.
I think in those days as well, every game was played at the first team stadium in the Youth Cup.
Which was great, yeah. And that was the thing, that like, it was, and playing at Highbury, people don't understand how good Highbury was. Like the pitch was like an absolute carpet. If you looked at
Can we say Highbury was far superior to the Emirates?
In fact, I would go too far to say that. I actually like Highbury better than the Emirates. I think there was more, there's less people, but there was more atmosphere. And the pitch was great. The fans were really close. It was a great stadium to play in. So when we had the opportunity to go and play in the FA Youth Cup, it was like, wow, we're at Highbury. This is it. Like, we're going to be playing here in a few years' time. And yeah, as we was progressing in the FA Youth Cup, I was playing really well, and we was all playing really well. But at the same time, I was training with the first team as well at this point, and I was like one of the first. I think I was the first one or one of the first ones. And I think the fact that I was, like I said, I was a product of my environment. I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I had anger issues, a short temper, and that was a part of my DNA. But at the time, there was no one in the game like there is today that could take you to one side, put an arm around you, or say, go for counselling. Here's the support system that you need to, like, you know, help you through your career, help you navigate your mind from, you know, being, you know, a district player and a county player to then playing for the Arsenal and then playing for England, and then you're close to being a first team player. Everyone, you know, already knew who the best players were in the country because we was on the back of the newspaper, like, you know, like Leon Knights and Jermaine Defoe's and like myself. We was in the newspaper. There was write-ups about us from a young age.
And the games were live on television.
And the game, the games even, and that in itself, like you can't help but get caught up in it. So when the FA Youth Cup came around, I remember Arsene Wenger was saying to me, next year I'm going to play you in the cup game, in the equivalent of what would be the Carabao Cup. You know, like when he was playing all the youth team players. Like he said to me, like, I'm going to play you in that. Because I was training with the first team pretty much every day. The FA Youth Cup come around and we played really well. We battered Coventry. It was just like even before we turned up, there had a few players like Gary McSheffrey, Craig Peed, Callum Davenport, that I knew because when we used to meet up with the England under 16s and stuff, they were there. So they're good players. But you know, like we played half decent. We're going to beat this team. And I think we ended up beating them like 7-2 on over 2 games or something like that. And that was easy. And then obviously I'm back with the first team training afterwards. And then, you know, Wenger's saying you played really well. You did this, you did that. Neil Banfield was really good for me actually, because he was the one that was like the alter ego. He was the one that would be like, he wouldn't tell me I played good. He would say to me, you done this wrong though. You could have done that better. And that always drove me. So like Neil Banfield for me was great because he never gave me that credit that I wanted to hear. He knew me and he just thought, you know what, if I tell him what he wants to hear, he's not going to keep on trying.
You were striving to please him every game. Then,
exactly. So I was striving to please him. I used to go to him after every game. I'll go to him and say, "What do you think today? You scored a really good goal, but there was always something." I was like, "Really? When's this? I could score a hat trick." He'd be like, "Yeah, but you lost the ball on the halfway line there, and they almost scored." And I'm like, so it was always like, and I to this day I speak to Neil, and I've got so much respect for him and Don Howe, God rest his soul, and Don Givens. But ultimately, that Youth Cup side was like the kind of pathway to first team football stardom. Because once you win that, you're in the history books, right? And no one forgets that. Generally, all the best teams, all the best players will have won an FA Youth Cup at some point. So we won that and then carried on playing with the first team, training with the first team, and the FA Youth Cup. The FA Premier League under-19 final came around. But obviously, I am 17 or 18, and my birthday is in May, so I would have just turned 18. Yeah. So like I'm playing up anyway, because there was under 17s and there's under 19s at the time. So like my age group, we're kind of playing up now as well. And I remember like the game, and I felt like I was playing well. It was a tight game, and I was kind of a bit frustrated because it was so tight. And, when you're playing against other teams and, you're scoring like 1 or 2 and you're up and you're comfortable, to then be in a game where like there's a full stadium, there were 35,000 people there, I think. I just remember looking around and it was like packed. And we was playing all right, but not our best. And I remember me and David Noble started arguing on the pitch over this free kick. And it was on the right-hand side of the pitch. And we laugh about it today because I always say you're the reason why I got sold. Because we started arguing. And then all of a sudden, he's like, listen, you're not taking a free kick because look, you're getting dragged, mate. Like that. And I turned around and I see my number. And I was fuming. I booted the ball like, I don't even know where the ball, I booted the ball like, it felt like it went out the stadium. It probably didn't. And then I just started walking over to the obviously to get subbed. And I remember like I had loads of thoughts going through my mind. That's one thing I do remember. But then it was kind of like a blur. I don't really know why I took my top off and like just threw it. And I didn't intend to actually like throw it in Don Howe's face. I kind of when you just dash something, but it hit him. And then I just remember hearing like, ooh, like that in the stadium. But then I just went down the tunnel and I kind of like wasn't really bothered because I was just more angry that I got subbed, to be honest, because I was like one of the best players in the country. Like, why are you subbing me for? And then that was my kind of
the last thing you ever did as an Arsenal player.
Yeah.
It
was.
You were sent to Coventry, as the expression goes.
It was.
You were sold to Coventry.
Yeah, I was sold to. People say, "Oh, he got sacked." I definitely didn't get sacked, but because I remember, like Liam Brady called me. No, Liam Brady in the dressing room says to me, I'll see you and you need to come and see me in my office, but I'll give you a call. So he called me like on one of it was early, I think it was a Monday or Tuesday. He called me anyway and he says to me, you need to come into the Marble Halls. So I go into the Marble Halls.
At Highbury.
Yeah, at Highbury. And I'm sitting there like outside, like, and I'm at this point, when I did what I did, I didn't really, like, I remember I went home and I was like, so? I didn't really care. Because in my mind, I was thinking, what's the worst that can happen? I'll just go to another club and play. Because in my mind, I was like, people are all... Because, you read the papers. Loads of things happen. Like, people get arrested for drink and driving that go and play on a Saturday afternoon again. So in my mind, I was like, what have I really done here? Like, and let me just put this in perspective as well. It wasn't that one incident that got me sold. It was like an accumulation of incidents over the years. But that was my ego. That was my attitude not being right. And I always say to the people now, like, I'm glad that these youngsters have got a support system, because when you come from an area and you're around people that are not rubbing off on you in the right ways, it can affect you. So like, I'm really happy that there is a support system now for the youngsters because they need it. And I didn't have that. But anyway, he came to me and he said, basically, listen, we're going to put you in the transfer list. And I was like, at the time, I remember I was thinking, what is this transfer list you're talking about? Like, I didn't understand what a transfer list was. I just thought it was like you buy players, you sell players. I didn't know what the transfer list was because I was a young pro. And then I went home and I said to my dad, he's put me in a transfer list. What does that mean? And he's like, well, you can be, they're basically shopping you around. And I was like, oh, okay then. Is that it? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, so it's not so bad then. So they're doing me a favour by helping me to move like that. So I looked at it like a positive almost with my dad when I was speaking to my dad. But my dad was absolutely fuming. He's an Arsenal fan. My mum's an Arsenal fan. All my family are Arsenal fans that live down the road. So they were fuming with me. But I just looked at it like, I'm going to play somewhere. Who's it going to be kind of thing. And then again, about a week after that, Gordon Strachan called my house. And I remember because I came running downstairs to answer the phone, the home phone, didn't have mobile.
And of course, Coventry at the time of Premier League.
Premier League, yeah. Robbie Keane's there, Hadji, Chupo, these kind of players. So I'm aware of them, especially those players because they were scoring great goals, and especially Robbie Keane.
And Gordon's son played in the Youth Cup final, I think.
Yeah, he did. Craig Strachan. Yeah. And then, I came downstairs anyway. I answered the phone. He's like, "Oh, it's Gordon here." And I was like, okay. And I just took the phone away from my ear and I was like, Dad, is Gordon for you? Like that. And I put the phone down on the stairs and then just went back upstairs. And then my dad came down to the phone and was like, obviously spoke to Gordon, who was Gordon Strachan. I didn't know. And he's like, Jay, it's for you. Like that. So I came back downstairs and I'm like, is Gordon Strachan? I was like, hello? Like that. And I genuinely, I didn't know. I didn't pay attention to managers. I just paid attention to the players that I enjoyed watching. So when he said to me, it's Gordon Strachan, Coventry City manager, I've got permission to talk to you. We'd like to sign you and blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, okay, great. I said, so he said to me, have you got an agent? And I was like, yeah. And at the time I didn't really have an agent. I was kind of like in between because I started off with Jonathan Barnett at Stella as a kid. And then I didn't really get on with them. And again, a lot of my problems came because of my attitude when I was a kid. But then there was another guy that I was talking to at the time, Eric Waters, who I think he works for CAA now. And he kind of participated in making that deal happen. And then, I went to Coventry and then met Gordon Strachan. He said to me, listen, you're going to be with the first team every day. You're going to be in and around the first team. You're going to be in the squads. I want you to keep progressing. I want you to go and play and express yourself. So in my mind, I was like, in my mind, I was like, yo, this is great. I've got another manager now saying to me, go and express yourself. Go and play. And then like as pre-season was going on, I found myself like playing up front with Robbie Keane quite a bit in the training games. And when you do like shooting sessions, it was like me and him up front. So I was getting really excited for the season. And then he got bought by Inter Milan. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, so what now kind of thing. And then being a cocky, confident young kid, I was like, who am I going to play with now? Kind of thing. And then there's people like, and no disrespect, like I don't want to come across disrespectful because I think every professional footballer that has a career is a good football player.
Correct.
Yeah. And when I hear people say like, oh, he's rubbish, he's this, he's that, unless you've played, you can't say that, right? But in my mind there was like Cedric Roussel there, and I'm like, who's this guy? Like I couldn't get in my mind. I was thinking, how's he even a footballer? Because he wasn't the type of footballer that I was used to playing with. And then when I went to Coventry, I see Robbie Keane and Hadji and Chippo and players like that were really good players. And then there was some of the young players as well, the youth players, like I said, that were really good players as well. So that I lost that kind of excitement of being able to play with like a proven Premier League striker that's a goal scorer. Robbie Keane had amazing technique, great finisher, could dribble past players. He's got that memorable celebration. That's what, as a youngster, you look at players like him and gravitate to that. After him, there was no one that I really gravitated to. So again, I was a bit upset about that. And then as the season went on, it was great because I made my debut against Man United when I was 18. That was memorable because that's the only thing I think Gordon Strachan did wrong with me personally, is that he didn't warn me that I was going to make my debut until like the morning of the game. And being me from London, I wasn't preparing well for games. I wasn't focused on the game because I just didn't think I was playing. I had no idea. I was in and around squads, but I never thought that I was going to start. And the experiences I had before when I was at Arsenal, even when I was at Arsenal playing for the youth team, you'd know you're starting midway through the week because you'll be working on stuff. Whereas this particular game, he told me like in the dressing room at like 12 o'clock or whatever. And I remember I was sitting there and my hands just broke into sweat. Like I couldn't believe it. I was like, shit, like what time did I go to sleep last night? Like I was playing on a computer till like 2 a.m. Like what did I eat? I can't even remember. I think I had some like hula hoops and stuff. Like I didn't prepare well at all because at the time I left London. My family were in London. I was living up in Coventry by myself. But I remember he read out the Man United team first, and that's what made me break into sweat because all I remember him saying was like Beckham, Keane. I think it was Scholes, Giggs, York, and Cole. And in my mind, I was like, wow, man. That's a serious team. And then he read out our team and it was like Hadji and Hadji and Bothroyd up front. And I was like, what? Like that. And my hands were sweating. And I remember he took me into the room after he told me, he's like, just relax. This is what I did with Robbie Keane. And I was like, I'm different to Robbie Keane. I feel really nervous now. And I don't remember having a terrible game, but he did bring me off at half time. I do remember that. And I remember afterwards, he said to me, you didn't play badly. He said, I thought you done well. You worked hard. You got hold of the ball. He said, but I just wanted to bring some more experience onto the pitch. And I think we ended up losing it like 2-1 or something like that, 3-1 maybe. But it was great that I made my debut because my youth team was still playing youth team football. And I made my debut in the same season. I got sold. So in my mind, I still was like, well, okay, let me look at the positives here. I'm earning a lot more money than I was and that all my teammates are. And I'm living by myself, which is, great. You want to get away from your parents when you're young. And then I've just made my debut at 18 years old. So like, it can't be that bad. That's the way I looked at it. It's not that bad.
But were people telling you it was bad then?
Yeah, especially especially in my area where I grew up and like Arsenal, because obviously I grew up with these guys. This Arsenal youth team, most of them I was friends with from 10 years old. Mm-hmm. So like now I've left at 18 and that in itself is a culture shock because these are people that I would spend all the time with. We'd go out to nightclubs for drinks. We, got our first car together, met our first girls together, boys' holidays together. Now I'm out my comfort zone. Now I'm just like up north by myself and having to navigate through life as a kid, having to like live in uncomfortable circumstances that I just wasn't used to.
I want to jump from there to another stage in your life when you're an adult and you discover that you've got epilepsy.
Oh, wow.
And this brings a completely new set of challenges to you. Now, where were you playing at the time when that happened?
Coventry.
You were still at Coventry?
Yeah. So this happened when I had my first seizure. I was like 19, and I didn't know. And remember, so this is what happened. So like, I just got my driving license, and I bought a car, and I remember at that point, again, because I wasn't always in the squad, I was going back and forward quite a lot without the manager knowing. So like, it was like from where I lived in North London to Coventry's training ground, probably take me about hour and a half max.
Speeding.
Probably. But it take me an hour and a half max. So I was, generally a week to week. You play like Saturday or Sunday, in Monday, Tuesday, you're off Wednesday, Thursday. So I would go home on a Tuesday once I had my car after training, stay in London Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and then drive up on Thursday morning. So I was doing that quite regular. This particular game, we played the game. I drove back on Saturday night. We went out on Saturday night, but then there was this party that I wanted to go to on the Sunday as well. So like I said to the boys, I'm going to stay in London and drive back to training on Monday morning. So I remember we went out on a Saturday night, as you do, And then on a Sunday, we was getting ready to go out, and I was sitting in my friend's bedroom and was playing computer. And then all of a sudden, I just started feeling like a bit, I didn't know the feeling, to be honest. All I know is that I just started like kind of, people were speaking to me, but I couldn't comprehend what they were really saying. And it would be like a delayed reaction. And then I just blacked out. When I woke up in the hospital, they said that I'd had a seizure. And I was like, because no one in my family has ever had a seizure. No one's seen them, like my friends. I mean, even to this day, I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen someone have a seizure. It's like scary, especially for your loved ones. But I'd never had one. And as soon as I woke up, I just said, listen, can epilepsy kill me? And he was like, no, not unless you're like, have a seizure next to a swimming pool or something, or on the side of, you fall off a cliff. Like, it's not going to happen. And I was like, oh, okay then. So like, I kind of just brushed that to one side. But then because I was young and irresponsible, they'd give me tablets to take, but I'm living by myself. I just forget to take them. Oh yeah, I got tablets. Oh, let me just take it. But then I won't even take them daily. I take 2 tablets twice a day. And I wasn't. So like these seizures now, I've had one, they started becoming a bit more regular because I wasn't taking, I wasn't sleeping enough. I was partying. I was exhausting my body every day.
Did you tell the club when you had the first one?
No.
Did you tell the club?
No.
Because you were in London when you weren't supposed to be.
So exactly. But I thought to myself, I don't want to tell them anyway, because I don't want to, like, I looked at again, I have to say it's a different time now. But then I know that if I had have said to someone, oh, you know, I don't feel great today. My epilepsy's made me feel a bit dizzy. They probably would have looked at me and just like laughed, or looked at me like I'm weak, or said, oh, you just don't fancy it. Something like that. So like for me, I just wanted to keep it to myself. I was like, thank God it never happened in front of any of my teammates, because I can keep this a secret. And that's what I did. I kept epilepsy a secret my whole entire career. There were times when there were certain players that did know, because, you know, something happened and I was out with them or something, and then I started feeling weird and I might have said something. But later on in my career, there were doctors that did know, because I started taking my medication more regular. So I needed to always get tablets. But obviously the managers never knew, because it's, you know, patient confidentiality. So I would tell the doctor, the physio might not know, but the doctor does. So I would just go to the doctor, I need some tablets. And he would give them to me. So
did it affect the way you trained?
It didn't, because I didn't care. I really didn't care. Like, as soon as that doctor said to me that in the hospital, you can't die from this, it was just like, all right, let's move forward then. It didn't really bother me. When I started to think about it is when I got married and I started having, you know, kids and responsibilities and that's when I started to really think about it. But even then, I'd still burn the candle at both ends. It's only till I really got into my 30s where I was just like, I'm going to be disciplined now, because the partying days have gone. But early on, when I first had it, I was still partying every weekend, twice a week. I was going out Saturday and Tuesday every week and still playing football. I wasn't a big drinker, but, you know, the biggest thing when it comes to people that have epilepsy is sleep, generally. And I was burning the candle at both ends. And that's why seizures became more regular. So then I was like, when you have a seizure, you can't drive for a year until you're clear of a seizure. So then I'm like, this is costing me more money, because I can't even drive no more. I have to get someone to drive me, or I have to get taxis everywhere. So it was, in the end, it was just like an accumulation of things where, like, my parents and then my wife was like, listen, you've got a son, like, you've got to start taking life more seriously here.
And did you, when you had a seizure, how long did it take you to recover before you could train properly again?
Honestly, there was like, you don't really recover from a seizure for about, so if I had a seizure now, I probably wouldn't recover properly until like Thursday.
And we're talking on a Monday.
Yeah, Monday, yeah. So it's like, you're hazy. Like, if I had a seizure and woke up, you might say to me, where are you? I might say, the first thing that pops into my head, it could be, I'm in Australia. Like, I wouldn't know why I'm completely disorientated. But then there were times when I won't say the club, but there was times when I didn't say nothing. I had a seizure and I woke up and played the game the next day. And I swapped shirts with people. I can't even remember the game. I can't remember the score. People would just say to me like, oh, you played well in that game, or I thought you could have done this better. I'd be like, yeah. But I don't remember the game.
That's astonishing.
Yeah, so like there was literally games that I can, like if I watched it now, I wouldn't remember me playing in it.
How was it around, and we haven't moved on to Cardiff in England, you know, but that was all current then?
Yeah. This is all current, because I was just like, I just didn't want no one to know the condition I had, because I looked at it like, if I tell people, they might look at me as like being weak, and I didn't want to come across weak. I always wanted to look like, not bravado, but I didn't want no one to look at me like a charity case. Like, oh, he's got epilepsy, I didn't want that. And then some of the experienced players, the experienced players did what they did today, it would be bullying. People would be getting, sacked from football clubs, because the era I grew up in, you muck around in a training game, you're going to get, put up against the wall, and you're going to have, there's fights all the time, all these kind of things. I mean, there probably still is, but it's not how it used to be. But yeah, epilepsy, I had it all throughout my career, and I hid it. And then there was a thing about contracts as well. Like, I wouldn't tell doctors and managers and physios until after I've signed my contract. So now I've got my contract, there's nothing you can do about it. So now I can tell you, I need tablets, I got epilepsy. But the reason why I didn't tell the club is because I was thinking, I need to get like, as a footballer, you want to get 2 or 3 year deal, 4 year deals. You want security. If I was to tell them, there's a good chance that they'll probably say, we'll give you a 1 year with an option. If you play such and such games, you get a second. No one wants that. So for me, again, that was another reason why I just didn't tell no one. And I didn't have a seizure on the pitch, like during any games or nothing like that. It's only right at the end of my career, when I was like about 37, when I was in Japan, I had a seizure on the training field, and it was because of jet lag. We came back and I just couldn't sleep. And there's certain medications that interfere with sleeping tablets, and with epilepsy tablets, which is called lamotrigine. So I didn't know which ones I could take, and I just thought, what, I'm not going to take the risk of taking a sleeping tablet and then, they all mix up with my medication. So I didn't. And then I couldn't sleep. And in the end, it just caught up with me, and I ended up having a seizure on the training field. That was the first time in all these years that I see myself have a seizure on the pitch. Someone videoed it. So that is the only time, even up to now, that I've seen myself have a seizure in that video. But it played a big part in my life, because there were times when I didn't feel great, and I'm leading up to games, and I'm like, shit, man, I want to play, but I feel like you start feeling like this kind of darkness behind your eyes, like patches. You look into light. A light would never give me a seizure. There's different forms of epilepsy as well, and it does affect people. But my personal one was more like sleep, exhausting my body, not eating well, missing my tablets. Then I'd feel really susceptible to having one. But yeah, there were games when I was leading up to a game and I just didn't sleep well. I woke up and I felt awful, and I could feel behind my eyes that there's a chance I could have a seizure, but I just went along with it just because I wanted to play. My love for the game like trumped everything.
I get it.
How is it now?
I get it.
How is it now?
No, now I'm all good. Like I take my medication twice a day, every day. I'm responsible. But we're talking about times when I was coming up, when I was, a tearaway from Archway. The world's at my feet. I'm earning a lot of money now. I'm partying. I've experienced life. I've got a car. I've got my independence. Like all these things when I was a kid, it's completely different to the way I am as I got older and older and older. And to be honest, I think I was probably one of these people. I didn't really mature until I was about 26 and understand that, like at the time, if you said to someone like now, what's the average time of a career? Like 15 years maybe. Like if you're lucky. Like I played for 23. So I was like really lucky, and I had epilepsy. But I didn't really start taking my career like really seriously until I got to Cardiff.
Well, let's go on to Cardiff.
Yeah.
Because obviously it was a great time for the club and for you.
Yeah.
And Dave Jones, who's still about now and probably should be in football management. And, no one, you get to a certain age, I guess, in that kind of profession where people won't take a chance on you. But I had great dealings with him, a commentator to manager. He was a terrific person to deal with. When Cardiff got to the cup final, he invited me to the team hotel the day before the game and gave me stuff, trusting me that you never forget things like that.
Yeah, of course.
And so how did it happen for you? And becoming the first and probably still the only England international to play while you're playing for Cardiff City.
It was funny because, like, obviously, I mean, you've definitely heard that, and I'm not going to speak about it again. But like, I had a really tough time at Wolves, but that tough time actually made me strong mentally because I was training by myself. But I remember Gary Breen said to me, "You're never going to play for Wolves again. You have to train hard and get your mind right for your next club." So that's what I used to do. So I used to go there purely with the mindset, I'm training here at Wolves, but all this training is for my next club. And I remember I was on the way to training at Wolves, and it was a bit like the Gordon Strachan situation again, because sometimes I love football and I've got good knowledge of football, but when my head's just away with the fairies, I'm in the car listening to music, you just kind of forget. So like, anyway, a number calls me. I don't really like answering private numbers because normally it's just like someone trying to sell you a mobile phone plan or someone that's calling you that doesn't want you to have their number. So I'm like, I'm not going to answer them. So anyway, this particular day, I answered it. And it's like Dave Jones. And I'm like, okay. Like that. And then it went silent. Because I'm waiting for him to speak. I'm thinking, who's Dave Jones? Like, that's like a really common name, Dave Jones. I'm like, all right, how are you? And then he's like, it's Dave Jones of Cardiff City Football Club. I was like, oh, Dave, why didn't you say so? He said, I did. I was like, no, I mean, why didn't you say that last bit? And then we started laughing and he's like, listen, I've got permission to speak to you. Why don't you turn the car around and come down to Cardiff? And like straight away in my mind, I thought, okay, who plays for Cardiff? I was thinking like, Michael Chopper was there. He had a good season before he went to Sunderland. Steve McPhail, Gavin Ray, Roger Johnson was there. They had like some good players there. And then I got there and I forgot his name. Terry Burton was there. And obviously he was at Arsenal. So in my mind I was thinking,
great coach, Terry.
Great coach. I think this is a blessing. Like again, like things like this seem to happen. And he was like, as much as I see the way Cardiff played football because I played against them, and it's always tough to go and play at Ninian Park, and there were some really good players technically there that I enjoyed watching as well. The fact that he was there made me like, tell. Like, I was like, oh my God, like this could be good now, really good. And then again, I sat down with Terry Burton, Dave Jones, Wilco, and Alan Armstrong, and all his coaching team pretty much. And he was saying, listen, you're wasting your career. Like he just sat me down and broke me down straight away.
Who was that?
Dave Jones, yeah. He said, listen, you're wasting your career. He said, like, you've got so much ability, but you're wasting your career. You shouldn't be here in the Championship. You should be at the highest level. I want you to go and play. I'm going to give you the platform. Go and express yourself. He said, after this, Jay, there's only one way after this. It's either you progress and you go to where you're capable of going, or you're going to have to think about life after football, because you're going to be going further and further down. But he said to me, I'm going to give you the platform to go and play, go and express yourself, go and affect games. That's what I'm going to give you. You have to go and do it now. And I remember Dave Jones saying, this is what we want to do. This is how we want to play. Terry Burton's chirping and saying, this is how we do training. We like to play possession games, passing. No, I was like, this is perfect environment for me now. Perfect environment. And I remember I think the first game of the season was like Southampton, I think, at home. And I was on the bench, but I'd be training quite well for like about 2 weeks. And I just thought that I would just go straight into the team. And I was on the bench. And I was like, I was like really training well. And I think everyone was surprised that I was on the bench because that's how good I was training. And I went to him afterwards. I said, Gaffer, what's going on, man? I'm like, I've been training really well. I've been scoring goals. I feel fit. He's like, yeah, but just be patient. And I felt like that was him saying, I'm the manager. I'm giving you the platform, but you still have to listen to me and do what I say. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And I remember I went to bed like, and every kind of night I went to bed, I just was saying to myself, I want to make myself indispensable. That's my first goal, to make myself one of the first names on Cardiff City's team sheet. And then game by game, Dave Jones did not give me no breaks. We could play against like a non-league side in the cup. He would not rest me. He was always on me all the time. And I think all the players liked as well was the fact that he said, I don't care what you do from like the game's on Saturday. I don't care what you do after the game to Wednesday. Just make sure after Wednesday, you're focused for the game on Saturday again. So you can go out, you can party, you can drink, you can do whatever you want. But make sure you turn up on Saturday and perform. Because if you don't, then I'm going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. And he said that to everyone. Now, everyone prepares in different ways. But I think that's the reason why he got on with so many players, because he gave them the opportunity to live their life the way they want to be, with the mindset knowing that they still have to turn up and play. I think sometimes when you put too many rules around people, it doesn't reflect well on the character that they are, because it didn't on me. If you say to me, right, you need to do this all the time, I'll be thinking, why are you speaking to me like a head teacher for? You know, I don't want a head teacher. I want a manager that can manage
who you are,
who I am as a person. And I think they're the best managers, the man managers. You know, and you know, we throughout the years, Alex Ferguson's, everyone always says great man manager. Jose Mourinho, great man. Wenger, Klopp, everyone. Guardiola, good man managers. And then they have people around him that can do all the tactics. And that's what Dave Jones had. He was a great man manager. And I just came along at that time, and it was perfect timing, where he was bringing players in to get promotion. I was in a situation where I was just desperate to get my career back on track. And I used to go to sleep every night saying, I need to make myself the first name on the team sheet and then just go from there. And then things started to like happen. The first season was a good season. I think we just missed out on the playoffs by goal difference, I think it was. But by next season, I was the first name on the team sheet. I was playing with, it was like me and someone else up front. And at the first season, I had Ross McCormack, who's an unbelievable player as well. Technically very good, really good link-up play. The second season, Chopra came. So then there was like me and Ross McCormack, or me and Michael Chopra. And then the final season, Bellamy was there, Chopra was there, Ross McCormack was there. Like, we had a really good squad of forwards, players. It was a good club on and off the field as well, because we used to do a lot of things. We used to meet up and go and have dinner with wives and girlfriends. So we was close as a group.
Good city as well, Cardiff.
Great city. Like I say to everyone, if you're winning football matches in Cardiff, it's the best city to go and live in. Because I remember when I was there, like the second season, I remember I parked my car. I don't even know if I should say this, actually. I might get someone in trouble, but I remember I parked my car, like we went out, and obviously I don't drink, but that particular night I drove my car out, and I had a few drinks, and then I didn't drive my car home, so I just left my car there. And I got there, and I didn't go there till after training, so like, there was the ticket on there from the night before, because it was on like a double yellow or something. And then the next day, I got another ticket. So I had 2 tickets on my car in the space of like 24 hours. Anyway, I took the tickets off, went to the police station, and to pay the tickets or whatever it was. And then they said, don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about it. It's like, and at the time, I had like a private number plate on my car, which basically it's kind of spelled out my name. And so from that point, I would just park my car anywhere. I was just like, let me park it here. I'll leave it in the bus stop. I'll just park on the pavement. And nothing ever used to happen because it was like, in Cardiff, it's like there's rugby, there's football, but it's a really close community, especially when you're doing well. Like everyone's really, pats you on the back. Everyone really gets behind you. There were some tough times, especially in the final season. But going to Cardiff was the best decision I could have made at that period in time because everything was there for me. They had a new training ground, and then we moved into the new stadium after the first. We played 1 year at Ninian, then we moved into the new stadium. So it was just like everything just seemed to happen and just kind of fall into place, it was just great for me.
Including England. So
give
us your version of the events.
I have to tell you what, do you know what the thing is? It's so, like, I wish I could describe it like word for word, like as it was happening, but it did feel like a real blur to me. Like I just remember we played a game, played at home, and I remember, after you score a few goals, I started off the season really well. I can't remember, don't quote me, but I was pretty much the same amount of goals to games. So I was starting off the season really well. And, there was obviously talk in the newspapers, as there is, Sky Sports, everything. And I remember Dave Jones done an interview. And this must have been around like October or somewhere like that. And he said something along the lines of, he's got the ability to, play for England one day. And then on the back of the Welsh newspaper, there was like a picture of me wearing like the St. George's, with the St. George's flag, wearing all the gear, like a night gear. And after that, I was playing well. I just, I didn't really listen to the papers too much because I've always been one of these people. I've got thick skin. I don't really listen to what people's got to say. I like if you're giving me compliments, but like when someone's giving me jip or stick or whatever, it just goes over my head. I'm not really interested. So I just carried on playing well. And then Dave Jones came down before one game and he went to me, Jay, Franco Maldini's in the stand upstairs. He's watching the game today. I was like, oh, who's that? And he was like, it's Fabio Capello's number 2. I was like, oh, nice. So I said, Gaffer, just go away, man. I'm trying to prepare. And he was like, no, seriously. I was like, fuck off, mate. Like, and like we had that relationship. Like, even though he's my manager, like we used to go and I used to have breakfast in the morning, we'd banter each other, and that's why we got on so well. And I think that's why I'd run through a brick wall for him. To be honest, that's why I went on loan to Sheffield Wednesday later on. It wasn't because of Sheffield Wednesday, it was because of him. I probably shouldn't have gone there. I could have gone to like other teams. But anyway, that's another story. But basically, he said to me, yeah, Franco Maldini's upstairs. So in my mind, I was like, okay, now the pressure's on for me. Because if he's coming to watch me, that means there is a chance that I might get in this preliminary squad. Dave Jones comes and shows me the sheet, and it had like the scouts at the game, and then it had his name there. So he proved it to me as well. So now, like, I remember going out, and I remember thinking, I was on form, but I remember thinking, I have to perform now if I'm going to have any chance. And then, I carried on scoring goals. Things just started to come. When you're in form, things just start to come easy. Like, you get tap-ins that you wouldn't normally get. Like, and the stories in the newspaper started to gather pace. Franco Maldini's coming to more games. And I'm like, wow, I've got a real chance here to get into this squad. And I remember it got to the point where it was the final weekend. So like the preliminary squad's announced, and then they choose the players from there to go and meet up with the England team. And I think it was Scunthorpe was the last game we played before the squad got announced. And I think we won like 4-2. I scored, and I think I got an assist or something like that. But I remember going into that game, and I remember thinking, I have to score in this game. I have to do something in this one game that would give me the best chance possible to go to that. And it was the same weekend that Audley Harrison was fighting David Hayes. So the plan was that we were going to go up there, win the game, and then go out to watch the fight afterwards. And if all goes well, hopefully I'm in the England squad. So like the first part went well. I scored. We won the game. Then we was at the fight. I'm at the fight and I'm like thinking to myself, it's like 9:30. Like I haven't got no messages yet. But the squad hadn't come out and it was taking ages. So like in my mind, I was thinking, I must not be in the squad. And then as the fight was like literally about to start, I got a message saying, you're in the England squad. Meet up at the Grove Hotel tomorrow. Blah, blah, blah. Congratulations. And in my mind, I'm just like looking at my phone like this, like refreshing. Because I was like, is this real? Because it was just a phone number. Because I thought you'd get like a phone call. Yeah. So I thought, is someone trying to banter me here? But yeah, so I got that and I just kind of, I remember I stood up and I like went, yes, and cheered to myself. And everyone kind of looked at me like, what's he doing? That this fight ain't even started yet. And then I told all my teammates and like, it was a great moment for me personally, but I have to give so much credit for my teammates because, and it sounds cliche, you know, when you hear people say, oh, you know, it was because of my teammates I'm doing this. But for me, it actually really was because we was really close. Like Mark Kennedy, I was really close to. And I remember he used to like challenge me before every game and say to me like, listen, like you're a top player, but you have to go and show it every game. It's no good just showing, you know, once here and then once again in 2 weeks. So he was that experienced player that's played with, you know, some top players at City and Liverpool and that I would always kind of go to as well because he would just keep it real. And again, as much as I had the manager, I had someone like him that's an experienced player. Craig Bellamy was there as well, experienced player that's played with some of the best players in Premier League history. And he was great for me as well because, and I told him this recently, just like last, was it the beginning of the year or last year? I don't think he realised how good he was for me because when he came to the club, the Craig Bellamy I knew when we was at Coventry together wasn't the Craig Bellamy that I met at the end of my career, well, middle of my career, end of his career at Cardiff because he was so disciplined. His pre-game routine, his recovery days. He had his own own personal trainer that would come and do drills with him. And because he's in his he would have been in his early 30s, but he's had a lot of trouble with his knees. But because I see the way he was, it made me want to copy. So now I've got this is the thing about football. When you've got people that you admire and you respect, and they're with you in front of you every day, they rub off on you. And then you start to pick up their habits. And that's what happened with me with Craig Bellamy because he was with me and I was playing up front with him all the time. We always had a really good relationship. We would banter each other. We would argue with each other. We would get pulled apart. But Craig Bellamy, I've got so much respect for because he's one of these people, you either love or you hate him. But I loved him. And I think he was such a great player and he was great for me along with Dave Jones. And then obviously, you know, being in that England squad, to be honest, guys, it was just like, just to be there. I didn't even care about playing. I just wanted to get called into the squad. I did play, but in my mind, I was just thinking, just to get in the squad, this is a dream. And then I remember meeting up there, Stephen Gerrard's the captain, spoke to me, you know, introduced me to all the team. I remember I came downstairs with flip-flops on because I had really bad, I had like bursitis in my heel. And I was having injections to play every weekend. And like even when I was training at Cardiff, I would like cut a hole at the heel of my boot to stop the pressure. So then I was going to, as soon as I got to it with England, I said to Gary, listen, Gary, I need to have injections every single session to get me through training. Otherwise I can't train. And he was like, no problem. We can sort that out. So I was having like painkilling injections to train every day.
Gary Lewin, who would have been at Arsenal when you were playing.
Exactly, yeah. Which is, again, things just seem to like fall into place. But then, so Stephen Gerrard introduced me to all the squad. In my mind, all I was thinking in my head was, I just want to be a part of this England team and not have them thinking, he's quite decent for a championship player. So in my mind, I just wanted them to say, bloody hell, he's a good player. He deserved to be here, rather than he's good for a championship player. And so when I went out there and there was Rio Ferdinand's, again, Gerrard's, Milner was there in the squad. There was a lot of good players, Les Scott's, Mika Richards, all of these people there. In my mind, it was a test to see where I was at a player, because I haven't played against these, because I've been in the championship now for about 7 years. So I haven't played, unless it's a cup competition, I haven't played against the best players in the Premier League for years. So for me, that was the most important thing. Going to play in them little training matches where I'm close to these defenders to see how good I am now. Is this confident in my mind false, or is it real? Am I as good as what I think now? And then, that was that part. So and I really enjoyed training. I was scoring goals. I was like, Capello said to me, well done on the training pitch. Anyway, I came off the training pitch and Gary Loon come up to me and was like, the boss wants to see you. And I was like, the boss wants to see me? Okay. So let's see what he's got to say. So I knocked on the door, Capello's room, went in, and he was like, can I help you? Like that. And I was like, you want to see me? Like that. And he was like, no. It was very good training today. Like that. I was like, okay. So I went to Gary and I was like, guys, what's going on, mate? You winded me up. And he was like, no, Arsene wants to see you. The boss.
Oh, the boss.
Yeah, the boss. And I was like, oh. So now I'm walking through the training ground, because we was training at Arsenal's training ground. Yeah. St George's Park weren't there then. It was the Grove and Arsenal's training ground every camp. So I'm walking through and it's funny because it was really nostalgic. I'm walking past the gym. I'm walking past, the canteen, everything. It's bringing back lots of memories for me. But again, Wenger's Wenger. He just got up, come around his desk, give me a big cuddle, put his arms on my shoulders and said, I know you can do it. I'm really happy you're here. And it means the world to you when someone like him steps around his desk, comes to you and says, I really believed you would be that person. And then he started telling me things that he said, you would have definitely played for me. He started telling me all these little things. Some people will be like, yeah, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, if you've ever met Arsene Wenger, you'll know the way he is. He's always positive. He's always that caring kind of father figure. And I think that's why all the players loved playing for him, because he was that father figure you could turn to, and he would encourage you to go and he would kind of put that belief in you and make you feel good about yourself. So when I got called up, it was just a real, different ends of the spectrum for when my career started. And one thing I definitely would say, and I said this the other day when I went to collect my legacy cap, was that...
And for people watching, can we just see?
Yeah. So I was the 1,172nd player to play for England.
Against France
at Wembley, in front of all my friends and family. I think no one...
And one thing we should point out, Jay, is that you came on when England were 2-0 down and it finished 2-1.
Yeah,
so your England career was a 1-0 win.
Exactly, that's true. That's very, very true. And you know what, as well, I remember there was a chance that I reacted a split second too late. I could have had a tap in. I remember, and I see it come across, and when you just know I'm not going to get there, but I'm just going to try and throw myself at the back. Anyway, I could have got a goal, but it didn't happen that way. But it was amazing, because most people that play for England, their career, their trajectory is on an upward. Mine was completely the opposite. Mine was forward, down, forward, back. It was if you had seen the line, it was just not. It's not what a traditional cap looks like for anyone. So for me, everyone's got their own measurement of success, but for me, I'm so proud of the one cap I had. And to be honest, I would have got more. Stuart Pearce, Franco Baldini come to watch me train more at Cardiff afterwards. I missed out on the other squads through injuries. But, people will say, oh, how do we know that though? Dave Jones was there. People would have seen England officials at Cardiff City's training ground. That particular game as well, there's only one game in that 2 weeks. Normally there's two games, so I was just unlucky that I get called the one cap wonder now. Any other time, I would have got two caps.
Well, there's one other aspect to your career that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
You travelled.
Yes.
You played for Perugia in
Yes.
Italy. You played in Thailand, and you played in Japan at
Yeah.
the end of your career. And of course, you had this remarkable period in Perugia where you met your wife.
Yes.
And mixed with some of the world's most notorious people. Go on.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a time. So when I was at Coventry, a lot happened at Coventry, financial problems. And at the time, when I signed that deal we spoke about, by the time Coventry got into the financial situation they got into, I was one of the highest earners. And they said to me, like, we want you to take a deferral or something like that. And I was like, what's a deferral? And they was like, well, we're gonna, cut 30% of your salary, and then if we get back into a good position, we'll give it back to you. So I said, that doesn't mean you're definitely gonna give it back to me then. And he was like, no. And I said, well, I can't take a pay cut. And then he went to me, well, you're gonna have to leave then. And I said, well, if you give me a free transfer, then I'll be happy to leave. Like that. And then they came back to me, and I didn't want to, because Gary McAllister was there now at the time, and like it was just really, really tough circumstance. Because when Gary Mack was there, I was buzzing as well, because I had someone that played the beautiful game, played football. But anyway, they gave me the free transfer, and then my agency at the time was again Eric Waters and a guy called Frank Trimbley. And basically they said to me, there's an opportunity for you to go and play in Serie A. Would you be up for it? And I'll be like, yeah. It's the best league in the world at the time. Yeah, all the best players in the world are there. So I was like, of course. And I was like, why don't you go there with Perugia?
Another great city.
Yeah, unbelievable city. I love that city. Why don't you go, see the city, see how you like it, see if you think it's a place that you want to go to. So I was like, okay. And I think that one of the biggest reasons why I went is because me and my dad used to watch like football Italia on Channel 4. And like you see all them great players like the Maldinis, Donadoni, Boban, George Weah, like all these kind of players. We always said, like me and my dad, he always said to me, if you got the chance to go and play in Italy, would you go? And I was like, of course I would. Because at the time, like, Italia football was huge. Like, and, the fact that it was on Channel 4, I could watch it every Sunday because you couldn't really watch football. Like rugby was on during the day normally. So now you could watch it. So that was one of the main reasons why I went. But then at the same time, it was at a period in my career where I was like, my stock wasn't high. So I'm not going to go to a bigger club, but I felt like I could go to a bigger league, right? And if I can perform there and do well there, then maybe I can move forward. So I ended up going there, and I loved it. I have to say, I loved it. Perugia was a good team. I think the season before I got there, they finished like kind of mid-table or just below mid-table. There's some good players there. Fabio Grosso, World Cup winner. Christian Abodo, Nigerian international. Mikeli just left. Zimaria, Brazilian international. He was there. Like, there were some good players there. But the manager was special. Sergio Cosmi. I mean, to this day, we're still in contact. I went to Italy to play in a memorial game for the owner who just passed away at Perugia, Luciano Gucci. And it was great for me. Again, it was another lesson learned because Italians, it's really kind of, everything is about football. When it's your diet, it's about football. Your family, it's about like everything is really like regimented and strict. And it was the first time I ever done weights in my life.
So how did your temperament adapt? Someone who had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to enjoy at Cardiff, and now
no days off.
None of that in Italy at all.
None. Like we had to be. So our games were on Sunday in Serie A, and we would have to be in training on Monday afternoon for a recovery. So you didn't really have days off. The only time you got days off is if the manager was like, you've done really well, or you might have played 2 games in the week before, and then he'll say you need to be in Tuesday afternoon. So like you get a day then. But generally, you're back in the gym. So I didn't know, when I first arrived there, we was warming up, right? And we was I was squatting weights. I was like, I've never done weights in my life. At Arsenal, like, there was an amazing gym there. But when like Don Howe and people like you used to say to me, "Oh, I'll go to the gym," I'll be like, yeah, I go to the gym. I'll take like literally a ball like that size, and I'll be practicing two-touch.
Mini football.
Yeah, the mini footballs, and I'll just be like juggling with the players. I didn't want to do weights. So like when I got there, it was like weights, strength, conditioning training, diet. Like a dietitian was there, a nutritionist, and I was like, wow, like this is really different now. Different way of different life. And I always say, like, now when I speak to people, I always say, if you get the opportunity to do something you love doing and travel while you're doing it, you should go and do it. Because I think the best part of life is traveling and experiencing different cultures. If you can experience different cultures and see the world and live your dream as well, doing something you love doing, why wouldn't you?
And you met your wife while you were there.
And I met my wife there, yeah. So like it was great. And yeah, it was funny because we were just talking about it last night, myself and her. Like we were saying, when she first met me, she was like cooking me fish. I was like, I don't eat fish. She'd cook me a salad, don't eat salad. Vegetables, don't eat vegetables. What do you eat? Like what kind of thing do you eat then? And I'm like, oh, like my mum used to get me like Chinese on Friday, hula hoops, Rolos. Like it was like my diet was terrible. And then when I got to Italy, like I started to understand and learn another way of life, a different lifestyle, you know, the healthy parts. And it was good for me because, again, I think throughout my career...
Did you learn Italian?
I tried to. Do you know what? I can get by. Yeah. I can get by. When I was living in Italy, it was a lot better. But now, like, I could... If you drop me in Italy, I could live in Italy. Oh. I wouldn't need to use my phone to get... You know, I can get by. But I think throughout my career, there's periods in every club I've been at, every moment where it was that, like, I'm testing myself. And, you know, we played against AC Milan, and that was one of the biggest tests where I actually see, like, greatness standing next to me, like every single player. And I was like, wow, like Maldini, Costa Curta, Cafu, Kiladze, Pirlo, Seedorf, Gattuso, Kaká, Shevchenko, Inzaghi. Like, in my mind, I was like, you know, like, it was kind of like the pinch yourself moment. Am I really playing against these players now?
Out of body experience.
Out of body experience. Yeah. And it was like, right, I just want to play well. If I'm going to play a crap season, I just want to play well in this one game against Maldini. Because in my mind, and he still is to this day, he's the best defender ever. But this particular game, I just wanted to play. So I was playing as a striker. We played a one up front, but I kind of maneuvered my way around Maldini a lot just because I wanted to play against him, you know? And it was a good game and I played well. I had a really good season that year. When I say had a really good season, I mean season in terms of performance. It's not like goals, because I didn't have a great season for goals, but for performances, it was a good season where I got to know and understand the league. When I went there, Jose Cosme said, if you can score 10 goals in your first season in Serie A, it would be like scoring 20 goals in any other league. He said, because players will literally, they'll let you go past them without the ball, but if you've got the ball, they will drag you by your neck to stop you going past them. He said, in Italy, we live or die on defenses. And he said, that's why we've been successful as a nation. That's why, like, when we play against other countries, we'll score goals and we'll just shut up shop because we're organised, we're disciplined. And over there, that's when I really started to learn about tactics as well. Because when I was playing in England, as much as I played for some good managers, young managers like McAllister's, Strachan's, and all that, it was very much like go and express yourself, but I didn't have no defensive duties. When I got there, I had defensive duties. I had people that I had to, like, be around when, you know, like, for example, that particular game against AC Milan, when the back line have got a ball, you need to be around Pirlo. And I remember playing in that game, and it was such a hot day. I couldn't get near him. Every time the ball went close to him, he bopped it off. And then, like, when I'm getting tired, I'm like, oh, he probably won't get turned there. And then he got turned, and then just thread a ball through, and they'll have a chance. And it's like, Jay, like, you know, kind of thing, shouting at me. But that's when I started to understand and, like, progress. But traveling was a big part of my career, and I loved every I mean, pretty much every country I went to play, I learned something, and it was good.
And notoriously, of course, in Perugia, you met and played with Colonel Gaddafi's son.
Yes, I mean, again, like, I don't, at the time, I had no idea about politics. I barely knew anything about life, let alone politics. But one thing I did know is that when I went there, I didn't speak the language. He didn't speak Italian either. And he was a part owner of the club, and he's part owner of Juventus as well at the time. So like when we was there on pre-season duty, I was with him a lot because he spoke English, I spoke English. There was a few other players, Christian Obodo, who's Nigerian. We had a Greek player and an Australian goalkeeper, spoke English. But there wasn't many people, like especially the Italians, that didn't speak great English. Ravanelli came afterwards, he spoke English. So I was with him a lot, and he was one of the main reasons why I met my wife, actually, because he said to me, like, he said to me, do you want to go shopping? And I was like, all right then. He's like, I'll send my car for you. I was like, okay, cool. Like, which is normal. Like, he send his car for, and at the time I didn't have a car in Italy. I'd just gone there. So he sent me his car, and we're driving, and it was like completely the opposite. You've been to Perugia, yeah. So that you've got to drive up this massive hill to get to the city where all the shops are. But we was going the other way, so I was like, where are we going? I poked my head around to the driver. I was like, where are we going? Anyway, didn't speak no English. Got there, and we were at the airport, and he's got a private jet to take me to go shopping in Milan. So I was like, oh, this is handy. do I need my passport? Like, no, you don't need that. So we got to Milan, and then I think we stayed at like the Kempinski in Milan, or the Westin, one of the two. And I remember we checked in. He rented out the top 2 floors of the hotel. There was like 10 people with us. The top 2 floors were his. He rented out every single room, security and all that kind of stuff. And then he says to me, like, we went shopping, and he says to me, do you fancy going to my friend's birthday party? I was like, okay, like, why not? I thought, as long as we get back for training now, because I'm not paying a fine. And he's like, don't worry, we got the plane, it's waiting. So yeah, we went to the birthday party, and that's where I met my wife, and then, the rest is history. So
how good a player was he?
No, he wasn't good. He wasn't good. But one thing I did admire, and I would say this, like, listen, he's a billionaire. Like, he wanted to come and he could sit and do whatever he wanted. He tried to become a football player. He tried to be a professional, and you got to admire him for that, because not many people will do that. He came training every day. One thing he was pretty good at, actually, was free kicks. He was good at free kicks. He was left-footed as well. But yeah, he wasn't good enough to play at that level.
And then you ended your career playing in Thailand and 2 different clubs in Japan.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The Thailand one was a bit of a asterisk, really. I look at that and say, as much as the people are lovely and the league now is a lot better, but when I went there, it was money reasons, if I'm honest, because when I left QPR, it's the most money I ever earned. I didn't want to take a huge drop in wages. So there was other teams saying, oh yeah, we'll give you 1 year, and and then there was other teams saying we'll offer you such and such. But it was like it would have changed my lifestyle drastically at that moment, and it was a financial move to go to Thailand, to be honest. But then when I was there and I was earning the money, I realised that it's not all about money, because I wasn't enjoying my football. And I was like in my early 30s, and I was thinking to myself, it's too soon for me to be in complete retirement mode, because the standard of football was poor. It wasn't really organised that well. It was like being on holiday. Training was at like 5 o'clock every day because of the humidity and the heat. So like, you end up just sunbathing by a swimming pool, or, you're going to shopping malls and stuff like that. So it wasn't really like I was, football was secondary almost, because I didn't feel like I had to have myself in peak condition to go and perform. So then it got to a point where I said to my wife, I said, listen, this ain't working for me. I have to like go and play at a high level. Otherwise, I'm going to look back at my career and say I wasted years, and I don't want to. Like, I wasted too many as a kid when I was mucking around and doing silliness. So I want to make these years important to me and make them, have some sort of value when I look back at my career. So I went into the club and I just said to them, listen, I don't want to be here. You don't have to pay me. You can just tear up my contract, and I'll just move forward. And they didn't like that at all. But then I said to them, I can't be here. You're not going to get nothing out of me. I'm not going to play. And in the end, they ended up agreeing to that. And literally, like 2 days later, I was sitting in the hotel, and I bumped into an agent who was he was half English but half Japanese, but he lived in Japan. And he said to me, "Would you be interested in playing in Japan?" And I was like, "Oh God, is this going to be another like Thailand thing?" I was like, "I don't know." I said, "What's the standard like in Japan?" And he was like, "It's the best league in Asia." And I said, "But I got told that when I came to Thailand." He's like, "This is a circus compared to Japan." And I was like, "All right then." I said, "Who's playing there?" And he was like, "Diego Forlan's there at the moment, and he's playing at Serie." And I was like, "Okay, he's a good player. Played for Man United. I know he's good. I like him. Played at Villarreal." And I said to him at that moment, I said, "Listen, I'm gonna come to Tokyo." Now this is like, because in Japan it's like the calendar season's a season, so it starts in February, ends in like December. So I said to him, "I'm gonna come to Japan or Tokyo next week, and I'm gonna come there with my wife, and we're gonna stay there for 10 days. And I need you to like take me to a few games so I can see that. I want to see the city. I want to see everything." So like we went there. A week later, me and my wife, we was there for 10 days. We didn't want to leave. It was like Tokyo was like the best city in the world as far as I'm concerned. It's unbelievable, safe, clean,
Good food.
everything, everything. And then the standard of football was really good. And then, I spoke to the agent, and then he said to me, "Come back in January." So the pre-season generally starts. You have to be back for pre-season in the end of January. So I was going there like the end of December, beginning of January, just to like speak to some teams. And we got there and we spoke to a few teams, but over there it's a bit different. The structure's different. So like your main sponsor, if you've got like Mitsubishi, that's going to be the club with like the biggest budget, or Toyota or Panasonic. So like you might be one of the best teams in the J1, like the equivalent of the Premier League, but your budget might be really small, which means like players like me, I'm not going to go and accept that kind of money to go and play. But at the same time, I knew that I wanted to be in Japan to play, because I looked at it like, if I do well in Japan, this is going to give me longevity. Like I could come back and I could play in the champ, and maybe get 2 years here and there, but I need longevity because I want to play. Like I was blessed that I never had no injuries, so I want to play into my late 30s. So anyway, we got to Japan, went there, and he said to me, "Right, we've got 3 meetings with these clubs. One of them though is in the Championship." And I was like, "Which one is that?" And he was like, "It's a team called Jubilo Iwata." And I was like, and he's like, "Dunga and Schillaci played for them." I was like, "Oh, I know them. I know them." And he said, "Yeah, but they're in the Championship. That's the only thing." So anyway, we met these teams, and this team that was Jubilo, they were sponsored by Yamaha, who were one of the richest teams in Japan. It's a big company, obviously, them for motorbikes and pianos and all that kind of stuff. So they had a big budget. So in my mind, I was thinking, oh, shit, ego kicks in. In my mind, I want to go to a club which is in the top league. What's more important at this stage? So I met the manager, and the manager said, "Listen, we need to get promotion this season. I'd love to sign you." And I was like, "Okay, but what's the deal going to be?" So they spoke, and they agreed the money's thing, and I was really happy with the money because I got really like high bonuses as well. But biggest goal bonus I ever had was in Japan, right?
And it suddenly became a striker then.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on penalties. But no, so like I ended up signing for the team that was in the second division. Just because the manager, his name was Nanami, he actually played in Serie A as well. And he knew a little bit of English, which was helpful to me as well. But when you go to Japan, in saying that, they just give you a translator anyway. Any foreigner that plays in plays in Japan, they give you a translator. So they just say, listen, the language is too hard for you to learn. Just concentrate on your football. Here's your translator. So yeah, the first game I remember I made my debut, scored 2 goals. That season we got promoted. We finished second in the league. I scored 20 goals. So like we went straight up that first season. So it was really good that I experienced success early on. But
was that team in Tokyo? Or
it was just outside Tokyo. It was Shizuoka.
Yeah.
It's like by Mount Fuji, like by there. So it's like it was a great place to be in. Great fans, city. People say to me, why is it such a nice place though? It's just I can't actually tell you. You have to go there and experience it. Then you'll come back to me and say,
I was there for the World Cup. And I walked out and I said I'll be back, and I haven't been back. I really meant it.
Yeah, exactly.
When I went there for the whatever it was called, the Club World Cup, it was called that then, wasn't it? In 2012. The biggest shock I got was that they drive on the left-hand side of the road like we do. I know.
I was the same as well. I was the same when I got there. I was like, oh, can I use my English license here? They was like, they give you English. They give you people that come from England. They give you a license for free. You don't have to do a test because it's the same side of the road, which is great. But it was a great decision. Again, that kind of decision was like the kind of decision I made when I was going to Cardiff, because at the time I needed a good move that can give me like longevity, and it was just the perfect decision because I ended up staying there for like 6 years, and it was great. I moved to Sapporo afterwards, 2 years, and that was where David Beckham scored in the stadium, the free kick. So that was a big deal as well, because when I got there was like the last person to score in that goal was David Beckham from England. Like, are you going to score more than him? I was like, I think so. But that was great to go and live there as well. All the stadiums were like all the World Cup stadiums. So it was a great place to go and apply my trade at that point in my career, because there's not a lot of pressure, but being a foreigner, because you're only allowed, I think at the time you started off with 3 and then you got to 5, but only 3 can be on the pitch at once. The foreigners are like the tipping of the iceberg. Like, you can have a good team, but your foreigners are the ones that bring you success. So like most of the clubs will have like foreign strikers or like midfielders, like in the spine of the team, because Japanese players, the wingers, fullbacks, midfielders, number 10s, they're like really good, like technically very good, nippy, fast, good end product. But then through the spine of the team, you might want someone like myself up front, or a strong defender. And they had like a lot of Brazilians went there because Zico was so successful, Dunga was so successful in the J League. So a lot of Brazilian players play in Japan. And again, for me to be there, and then you start seeing the likes of Iniesta coming over, Torres coming over, Sampa, Vermaelen, all these kind of players coming over, it showed the quality of the league, because now you're playing in there, and I'm playing against, like we played against Kobe actually, and it was my last game that last season before retirement, and I ended up swapping shirts with Iniesta. I wasn't really one for swapping shirts, but I just thought if I'm going to play against anyone and swap shirts with anyone, it's going to be Iniesta, because he's an all-time great. And even then, he couldn't run like he was before. But like the way he navigated himself around the pitch, his first touch, his vision, just like unbelievable. But it was great to go there and experience that.
It's been a wonderful career, and you're doing many things now in the media. And honestly, it's been a real privilege to hear your story today, Jay. Especially as I was there, sort of at the beginning of it. But do you ever sit back and think, "Wow, I'm very proud of this. I achieved this. I did this and that. What would have happened if I hadn't thrown the shirt?"
Yeah.
What do you think would have happened?
I genuinely think I would have played. I would have played at least. I reckon I would have played about 100 games for Arsenal, because I don't think Wenger loved me as a player, and he was one of those people that I think at the time when I used to go to training, he was always that person that he would go out of his way to come and speak to me and put his arm around me. So I know that he wanted to I was one of those players that he wanted to push through and bring through. And I just felt like looking back at it now, if I hadn't have thrown my shirt, I definitely would play for Arsenal for years, because I think I would have been I would have submerged myself in that team, right, with those kind of players. When you're around the Bergkamps and the Henrys every day, you can't help but improve. Again, it just rubs off on you. You start learning from other people. You start,
But you got to get games again.
You got to get
in their place.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I would have been a regular or whatever, but I definitely would have been in the squad, because there was players that weren't better than me that were in the squad.
But
regularly.
do you also think that your career has turned into a journey that, in the end, you wouldn't swap anything for?
Oh yeah, I genuinely, I say I did it my way. I did it my way. It wasn't the best way. It wasn't the traditional way. It probably wasn't a very good way. I wouldn't tell any other player, go and do it this way, because 9 times out of 10 it's not going to work out. But in the end, I got to where I got to. When I was a kid, when I was arguing with my teacher saying I'm going to make it as a footballer, I ended up doing everything that I wanted to do. I played for it. I played in the Premier League. I played in the equivalent of Europa League. I played in Serie A. I played for my country. I earned money, and I'm comfortable. I got to achieve everything. Looking back, if I hadn't have done that, I would have had the same career, but just at higher heights for longer, more consistently. But I wouldn't change nothing, because that's what made me into the person I am today. I think the knockbacks, the ups, the downs, has made me into a better person today as I'm sitting here than the person that I was growing up. Because the person that I was growing up, we laugh about it now. We still have our Christmas party every year. That FA Youth Cup team, we still meet up every single year in December. We have our Christmas party. We laugh about all the times. We laugh about my behaviour, other people's behaviour. It wasn't acceptable. And I ain't got nothing against the likes of Liam Brady, Don Howe, Neil Banfield, none of them people, because I know what I was doing at that point in my career was wrong. It wasn't the right way. But at the time, I didn't have no guidance, no one to really put me on the right track, no support system to say, you can't do this, someone to go and speak to, someone that can understand my life and where I was coming from. They have that now, which is great, and I'm happy for them. I have a question for you. The Man City QPR game.
Go on.
I need to know obviously you're watching that game, and there's lots of things being spoken about it now. I need to know what was going through your mind when you was commentating on that game.
Well, starting at the beginning of the day, Manchester City was supposed to win easily, but I knew the history of the club and the supporters. It was very early into the money being in the club, so...
Just to get it straight, you were in the QPR team.
Yeah, so I was in the QPR team, and that season as well, we lost 3-2 at home to QPR. And I scored in that game. And I felt there was so much pressure on that game. So much pressure. But for some reason, we felt we could get at them.
Well, I saw your manager the night before, and Mark at times has been quite a difficult manager for a commentator to deal with.
Yeah.
Good bloke who was playing. I saw a lot of him in Manchester, and I didn't expect to get much help, to be honest, on this game, massive game for QPR and you. And he said, no, we're going to have a right go. He told me this the night before. Have a right go. Cisse is going to be involved, and we're going to have a crack at it.
Yeah.
And I didn't really believe it, but of course you did. And all I can say, that the other part which you were leaving as a backdrop as well, what was happening at Stoke, wasn't it, in the other game?
Yeah.
Against Bolton, was Bolton the team that eventually went down?
Yeah, they went down, yeah.
So that was also, plus the fact that Man United were winning the league as it seemed at Sunderland, and I was getting all that in my ear as well. So it was quite hard to sort of marry all those things together. But at the nub of it all, I mean, Joey got sent off, and that clearly tilted things.
That actually helped us in a weird way.
Well,
weird way as in at the end of because I mean, Joey's Joey, and he's a tenacious midfielder. He's a ball-winning midfielder. He will live and die to win anything. He wants them 3 points. And I think that's why he had such a successful career. But when that actually happened, it was a negative that he got sent off because he was one of our best players. But then because of that, we got so much extra time. I think it was like 12 minutes extra time. But then in that 12 minutes, and I think Joey spoke about it recently, actually, there was about 6 or 7 players that knew we were safe.
Yes.
And it was all the ones that was like, I was on the pitch. The defenders, they didn't have a clue. They were throwing their bodies into tackles. They didn't have a clue. It was people like me that was up the other end of the pitch, the attackers, that...
But you don't want to lose a game, do you?
No, of course. No, of course. But I'm saying the magnitude of it is when you have that relief of like, we're safe. Yeah. You can't help but like almost not, you like switch off.
But it was almost as exciting for you as it was for Manchester City. What happened to them?
Yeah.
Because you were written off, really. You're going to lose the game, weren't you? Yeah, it was a way to the team that were going to win. But in terms of what happened at the end, when it went 2-2, I was aware that this could happen. You know, football, I've been watching it all my life.
Because you must have been looking at the game saying they're putting so much pressure on now.
Yeah, he's still scoring. You said it earlier about scoring being the most difficult thing. He's still, that's got to
do it, yeah.
And even at 2-1, so we're into added time now, aren't we, at 2-1, and Dzeko scores. And you think, I wasn't sure that QPR was safe. That they weren't telling me that.
Yeah.
They were just telling me that on the pitch, some of the Man United players were watching the monitors and everything. And the only other thing I can remember, Jay, is that, and I've said this to Sergio, and that we had one really long chat about it about 9 years later after the event, which was a privilege for me. And I said, I knew you'd score before you did, because when he took his touch, I'm up there, and you just know.
Yeah.
It just, and the ball hadn't hit the net then, but I suppose that what I said, which was all totally off the cuff and everything, I suppose I took a deep breath and that's what came out.
You know, it's funny, because I said to my wife today, I'm coming here to do a podcast with you, and she's like, who's that? And I was like, oh, do you remember the QPR game I played in, the commentator that said like, like that? Shit, I know him. And I was like, you've become famous because of that. Because
I'd done it 38 years and I became an overnight sensation.
I know. I was like, but it was again, it was just one of those games. And now when I go into Sky every day, it's got it on the window there, like the goal, and obviously the way you said it was like, it's iconic in Premier League history. Like,
it's amazing other people's judgment. I just do what I do, and if people feel it's the right thing, the deep down, if you're probing my soul, the deep down feeling is, thank goodness I didn't mess it up, because commentary's not an exact science like playing.
But that's why you're one of the best ever.
Well, just
definitely.
So I've been listening to Neil too much.
Can we end this then with you saying what was your Aguerooo moment football?
Football wise. I don't know. I haven't got that moment. That moment was unbelievable. Do you know what? To be honest, like for me, the moment that I had the opportunity to carry on playing football, so they offered me another 2 years when I was in Japan, and I look back at it now and I say I didn't take the 2 years up because I wanted to spend more time with my 3-year-old at the time because of COVID as well. It's tough times, but I look back at my career now. And I can genuinely look back with happiness, because, again, I did do it my way. There was lots of ups and downs, but that made me the person I am today. And I've become a better person for it. I think if I had had everything my way, like getting to Arsenal, win the FA Youth Cup, get into the Arsenal first team, play in the Premier League with the Invincibles, earn lots of money, I probably would have ended up becoming a shit version of myself now. Just because everything always went my way. But I think because of all the knockbacks, it has had to make me reevaluate my life, reevaluate myself as a person. And now I can give advice to people that are having tough times. Like when I listen to the best pundits and, speak on television, and I respect all of them, the likes of like Roy Keane, Graham Souness, like Gary Neville's, all these kind of people. One thing they all have in common, they're all winners. There's not many of them that have been in a relegation battle before. There's no one that can talk and say, oh yeah, I've experienced that. I've experienced getting released from here and there. I've experienced, not having a club, not having to like wait around for a manager to make a decision and then changing his mind. They've always been on that trajectory. And again, that's credit to them, because they was in that position and they produced and they had their head on the right way from a young age. But for me, I look at things and I say, I'm able to help a lot more people because there are a lot more people like me out there than like them.
Can I give you one other scenario that you may have thought of, that I've thought of during this conversation? Had you stayed at Arsenal and that incident not happened, knowing the way the medical science has gone, you wouldn't have been able to keep your epilepsy secret.
No.
And that might have had a really terminal effect on your career. You might not have had any sort of career. So
very true. So
looking at it that way, you've done very, very well.
Yeah. I mean, even now, like I'm an ambassador at Young Epilepsy, and there's some. Obviously, I can't mention their names, but there's some people now, some young players that I know that are playing at some top clubs that have epilepsy, and I've told them, you have to tell them, you have to let them know, because the worst thing you can do is be at a football club with that burden hanging over your head, and you have to deal with that yourself. The only person you can tell is your mum or your dad, is your girlfriend or wife, whatever. But you don't want that burden. You don't want to have to turn up at games knowing that I really want to push myself to limits, but if I do, I could have a seizure on the pitch. You know, you don't want that. And I did that throughout my whole career. And it's not that I'm saying I want, you know, any kind of like, oh, he's a hero for what he did. No, it's not that. It's that, again, I done it my way. And my way was to keep everything. I consumed everything. I kept it all to myself. I didn't want to feel vulnerable to anyone. My whole career was a battle. You know, I never got nothing easy. The only thing I got easy was God-given talent. And that, you know, that was given to me from above. But apart from that, everything was tough in my career. Like everything. And I did it all. A lot of the things were my fault as well. That's the thing. Like I say, a lot of these things that we're talking about now are my fault. My attitude, me having fights, me arguing with people, me arguing with coaches, being a know-it-all. Like all these things. These are all my fault. But I know my faults. I'm aware of that now. But again, I wouldn't, when it comes to my epilepsy, that was really tough because especially when you're playing like games on Saturday and then Wednesday and then Saturday, when you know you're feeling knackered, you know you've got to, you know, go to another game and play again. Those kind of thoughts always went in my mind. And all you really want to think about is the person you're playing against, you know, your opposition. I don't want to think about, man, if I go up and head the ball, or, you know, if I exhaust myself too much, have I taken my tablets if it's a night game? Because I got to take my tablets at morning and then night. So if I take them at like 8 o'clock in the morning, I've got to take it at 8 o'clock at night. So I've got to take my tablets like as I'm going out for a game. And then even then, like the tablets don't really kick in for about half an hour. Like, am I gonna, like all these little things that I had to deal with throughout my career. Again, it's made me the person I am today, and I'm proud of myself for it because I was able to navigate through my career and achieve everything that I wanted to achieve, and look back at my career with a smile on my face.
We've listened to it with a smile on our faces.
Thanks so much for having me. I mean, you guys are legends as well, by the way. So I was just happy to be here.
So thanks ever so much to Jay Bothroyd, who has achieved a new record of the longest podcast in the history of the Joy of Football. Well done.
And worth every minute, by the way.
Yeah, doubly. But we haven't finished because it is time for Martin Tyler's letter from the Gantry.
Letter from the Gantry.
As always, thanks, Neil. There have been 62 different stadia used by 51 clubs since the inception of the Premier League, which is now in its 34th season. I've been very fortunate to have been selected down the years to commentate from all of them. In fact, there have been more than 62 Gantries with clubs like Chelsea, Blackburn, and most recently Luton switching their broadcast platforms to opposite sides. I completed the set recently with a debut at Everton's brand new home, the Hill Dickinson Stadium, constructed on the site of the old Bramley Moor dock, where the River Mersey flows out to the Irish Sea. As I commentated on the final game at the Toffees' historic former ground, Goodison Park, their iconic home for 133 years, I was hoping for such an assignment, and Premier League Productions kindly gave me the opportunity for the game against Crystal Palace. It didn't disappoint. The first impressions are pure 21st century and maybe beyond. The structure from a distance is mightily impressive, space age style, and a huge contrast to the neighbouring streets and buildings which reek of dockland history. I found that contrast working both ways, combining admiring the eye-catching structure of the stadium with a wish to know more about the city of Liverpool, when it was one of the biggest and busiest ports in the world. The next vivid impression came from driving through a front entrance to the television parking lot at the back of the ground, right on the river. This view emphasised the remarkable feat of filling in the site. Holding back the Mersey must have taken some remarkable feats of engineering. The day of the match against Palace coincided with the tail end of Storm Amy. The water was angry. It added a spectacular sense of drama without threatening, I'm glad to say, the rock-solid safety of the new build. Neither of these vistas are available from the Gantry, where you look out onto a proper football stadium. Getting to the Gantry is a far cry from the notorious tricky route at Goodison Park. That climb up the outside of the Bullens Road stand, a clamber across the roof, a drop down through a trapdoor onto the platform. Scary for the faint-hearted, particularly when there was slippery frost about. At the Hill Dickinson, you glide up the levels on escalators. The sightlines and the Gantry's position are very similar to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. There is a splendid south stand with 14,000 seats behind the right-hand goal as you look from the television pictures. It is the upmarket version of Goodison's Gladys Street end, and the acoustics are exceptional. And it's built on the steepest angle closest to the pitch that structural and architectural law allows, so even at the very top, you're as close as possible to the action. All 3 goals in the Palace game were scored at that end. The mega noise when the Everton winner ricocheted in off a new hero to go with a new stadium, Jack Grealish, could have reverberated all the way back to where he's come from, Manchester City. Another compliment which goes along with Tottenham is the friendliness of the staff. Encouraged, I'm sure, from the executives, but easier for them to show in a spanking, brand new surroundings. It looks a happy place to work. It already has a neat piece of trivia. Iliman Ndiaye, who scored the last goal at Goodison Park, the last 2 in fact, in the final win over Southampton, netted the first Everton Premier League goal at their new base. The gifted Senegalese international scored against Palace too from the penalty spot, which set up the scenario for the jack-in-the-box winner. Getting the 52,000 plus capacity away post-match is a challenge though. That was always a problem at Goodison and indeed remains so at Anfield. The urban setting is part of the history of big city clubs, and deep roots need to be preserved. A previous Everton plan for an out-of-town ground never got off the ground. People of my age might be reminded of 2 footballing Jimmies who left their mark on the game. Hill, player, manager, negotiator, television presenter and pundit, and Dickinson, who won 48 England caps, played 743 league games for Portsmouth, winning 2 championships in the process, and honoured with a statue outside Fratton Park. The naming of Everton's new ground might be the only aspect of the project which didn't go down particularly well. However, sponsorship is essential for the football industry, and well done to Hill Dickinson, an international commercial law firm based in Liverpool, for stepping up when the ground naming rights were available. I hope they don't mind my, albeit very tenuous connection to football's past, as they give considerable financial backing to Everton's future.
And don't forget, you can read Martin's letters on our Substack site, substack.com, under the title The Joy of Football, and my angry musings in there, which are very rarely joyful and are normally joyless. Right.
He's accurate, I'm afraid.
Substack, you can, of course, subscribe to the podcast. And you can get closer to us by getting on the Patreon. But let's not talk anymore because we've taken up enough of your time already. From Jay, from Martin, it's
goodbye.
Goodbye.
And don't forget, Cover Sports were helping us with this episode, backing us. Cover Sports, great health clubs. Keep watching.